Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Problem Solver Politics live stream. It was a good vacation week last week. Glad to be back. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, with Cody the Oracle. Stunning and brave. Oh, man. And we just fixed that, too, which is really, really kind of funny. So if there's any questions in your guys' mind whether or not we actually do this live, there is your answer right there. But before we do get started, I'm going to say that all of your guys' donations have been put to awesome use. As you can see, we're upgrading the studio every single day. And now once we actually start going back to having guests and so on and so forth, you're actually going to be able to see these cats on our new updated guest cam. Probably Brittany the Shadow is going to be our first guest in that regard. So anyway, let's try that one more time as people come into the chat. I'm your host, Cardinellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
There we are. Awesome. So, Cody, what are we talking about today, my man?
Well, oh, sorry, my headphones don't work. Anyway, I don't know, man. How was your weekend?
Oh, dude. Where do I begin is the question. I have actually been one of the rare cases that is completely slammed due to COVID. And our life has been changing big time because in my other profession, more people are home. And I have to say, this week, I've come to some interesting emotional revelations about COVID. One of them is the disappointment of everything political and all that garbage over there. But I've really seen some really, really good outcomes from COVID, and I'm trying to focus on the positive. Do you know what are some good things you think, Cody, that has happened as our world has suffered through quarantine? Can you think of any positives?
Honestly, no.
Okay, here's my top three that I've really come to grips with this week. First off, for the past 6 months, celebrities have not mattered. They haven't mattered. Nobody cares about them. And half of these late night hosts and half of these so-called comedians and half of these so-called smart talking heads have been shown to be either absolute frauds, horrible people, or really not as funny without their staff writers, really not as good looking without their hair and makeup. Really just the facade of Hollywood has been ripped off and some careers have been seriously born. As more people are watching YouTube content, I've seen all kinds of hilarious comedians that I have followed on YouTube and I followed on other social media platforms really come into their own and it's birthed careers. Also, so many of my friends, I was talking with a friend yesterday who does wrestling promos. Interesting enough, Cody. He gets wrestlers gigs. That's his job. He's got, I don't think he's an agent. I don't know exactly what the title is, but he specializes in getting people that are world wrestlers movie gigs. And he's like a liaison to the movie industry for professional wrestling. And anyway, I was talking with him, and dude, the 2-hour commute to Century City, gone, done. It used to be that every single person had to come into that office, and when coronavirus started happening in the very beginning, they thought, oh, this is going to be a disaster. We're not going to get any work done. These people are just going to sleep in, not do anything, so on and so forth. But no, the company's been very functional. The employee satisfaction, just checking in on Zoom every day and having that 1-hour conference meeting, and then just being a responsible person that is paid to be a professional and do his job at home while able to assist raising your kids and be able to be there when you have to pick them up from school and help your wife out with different things and responsibilities she has when an emergency comes up. You know, that transition of all of these men being at home that were working, and then also all these professional women who haven't had to sacrifice that stressful hour getting their kids to the classroom in the morning or whatever like that, has been a great blessing for families. Many of these families have learned a new way of doing things that is better. And I think, just as Andrew Yang said, automation is going to happen in 20 years. We noticed coronavirus kind of put it on a 10-year or a 5-year track. I really think that a lot of the, not automation, but the home office environment that was happening, the leaving of the cities in order to live a slightly more comfortable life in perhaps a rural setting or a suburban setting where you actually have some room to breathe and think and raise your children and be family focused instead of career focused. That shift has happened very quickly, and I've seen people that have benefited from it, Cody. I mean, I have a friend that works for a bank, major bank, top 4 bank in the United States of America. And it has been so effective the past 4 or 5 months of their executives working from home. Everything from underwriters for loans to like retail tellers whose dogs I hear barking in the background when I have to go to the tier 1, phone tree support. All of these people, their companies have said, wow, like why are we spending millions on Chicago high rises and New York high rises and LA Wilshire Boulevard high rises just as status symbols when we already got the status and we can have our employees work from home? So that's the second thing I've noticed is the transition of working from home for professional families has been really, really good, at least amongst friends and family that I know. Okay. And then the third thing that is positive, I can't remember. I had 3 things. Dang it. Celebrities haven't mattered. The transition has been good in some aspects for those that haven't obviously had crippling unemployment. I'm focusing on the positives.
It sounds
here.
like more or less. Hold on 1 second.
What?
Anyway, I don't know. I mean, just keep talking.
Okay. And then I think the microphones got switched. So, sorry about that one. I just noticed that looking at it. I think that's my cord is in the 1 slot. But anyway, so the second thing was that all of these high rises have gone empty, and this I could see not just for the families, but for the actual society at large. I could see this being a really, really good shift because it's taking away power from the big and powerful and transferring it once again to the smaller, which I just view as better, the individual families, the individual decision makers. So much so, Cody, this will blow your mind, man. This will blow your mind. And here's an example. Do you know what percentage of New York apartments are empty, like categorically empty, vacant, not paying rent right now as we record this live stream? Just throw out a number out there.
65%.
A real number. 65% are empty. What do you think it is? What percentage of
Sorry, I didn't know how stupid I was.
Okay.
95%? What do you mean? I'm literally guessing. 5%?
Okay.
1,000%? What do you mean?
Okay, I thought you were being hyperbolic. No, it's 13% of New York apartments are empty. You got to realize I lived in New York. Okay, for years I lived there. And I was there at a time when getting housing in New York City was so competitive that you had to show up with your credit report already printed out because you'd been to the other property management office and lost a spot there because somebody got to it first. But they give you the courtesy of handing you your credit report, and you would have to show up, Cody. Like you would be sitting there on your laptop refreshing Craigslist, and then a new apartment would pop up and say, oh, go to 23rd Street between 4th and 5th Avenues, we got an apartment, call the property manager, whatever. And you would show up with your credit report in hand, with a cashier's check or cash in hand for the first and last month's rent as a deposit, just saying, like, look, will you rent me this apartment? Because housing was so competitive and everybody wanted into New York, all right? And it used to be considered bad if there was 1 or 2% of apartments empty. Now it's 13%, Cody. 13%. And by the way, they think those numbers are faked because they think there's a lot of co-ops and a lot of property management companies that aren't saying 50% of their buildings are empty because people have moved out of New York City, because they're afraid that if all the other apartment tenants figured it out, that they would start demanding less for the rent that they are achieving. And so I think really that sounds really, really good. Whatever you just did sounds awesome.
I fixed it, but thank you.
Okay. So I think, Cody, that the numbers are actually a lot higher and that this is a big golpe, as you say in Spanish. It's a big kind of power to the people moment, a retransference of power to the people, at least in the real estate business. Does that make sense?
Fascinating.
Oh, come on, man. You asked me how my weekend was and what I thought.
Double fascinating? I don't know. What do you want to hear? Triple fascinating? Stunning and brave? Unbelievable? I mean, what do you want to hear?
I'll take stunning and brave. So let's talk about the first bit of news today.
Well,
Land
I mean,
of the worried.
this isn't really news, but this is something going on. It's just not like a news story. But I want to go through this, and I guess we'll start here. So, obviously, well, I guess we'll go about this. Since we last did a stream, there's been, I believe, 3 people killed in shootings at the various protests, demonstrations, riots, whatever you want to call them. 2 in Kenosha, 1 in Portland just the other day. It's been an increasing. Actually, today, both President Trump and Joe Biden in Pittsburgh, and I'm blanking on where President Trump was. Either way, both of them gave speeches speaking specifically about kind of what we've seen. And I guess I'll pull up a couple clips of that for you guys first. But what we saw over the weekend going on in places like Kenosha and Portland. I gotta give me 1 second and have these tweets pulled up right away. But I believe Joe Biden came out and actually made a pretty emphatic statement that was
DOA.
As soon as I saw him say it, I'm like, it's interesting. I'm trying to find, of course, man. Whenever I want to find something, it's not there. When I don't want to see something, it's in my face so much I have to find a way to get them to remove it from in front of my face on Twitter. However, Joe Biden came out today and said, I mean, he didn't mince any words. He said that basically being violent, burning, looting, none of this is protest. None of this is acceptable. None of this is stuff that Joe Biden basically would accept in America. Let me find there we go. This is the quote. I want to find the video, but I had to pull the quote up. We'll get the video. Then I'm going to go through some super chats to go through some more stuff. But today, Joe Biden was prompted to say rioting is not protesting, looting is not protesting, setting fires is not protesting. None of this is protesting. It's lawlessness, plain and simple, and those who do it should be prosecuted. Donald Trump made headlines with statements he made in his protest and his speech today. I believe the key statement that was latched onto from Trump's speech today was Donald Trump, I believe, referring to the shooter in Kenosha, said that it looked like he had to defend himself because he's about to be killed, something along those lines, which of course has sprung a just ludicrous overreaction, but still, a lot of people were definitely very interested in that. So, those are the 2 things we had going on in kind of reaction to this today. So, before I get to the kind of rest of the stuff I want to get into, let's go through some of these super chats. So, earlier, and the reason why I wanted to wait in this one is we're getting to it right now. NS Greeny, $5 super chat, thank you very much, said, I don't know anyone that isn't scared in some way about civil war, be it along racial, party, or class lines. I fear America is in more trouble than most think. And we're going to get to, you might be surprised how many people agree with you on that statement.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on Sly Cactus, $5, said, Cardin, I never knew you were in a FedEx commercial and interviewed Mark Rober. Your past videos are very interesting.
Oh.
Adam Duffy, $2 super chat, said, hey guys, y'all looking great. And Sly Cactus, $2 super chat, rest in paradise, Chadwick Boseman. Yes, very, very sad that the actor. Mostly it was from the Marvel movies, but from a couple other films that are pretty good as well.
Yeah. He seemed like a really cool
surprisingly-
cat, too.
I mean, he did just pass away, but even then, I have not seen one bad word said about him. Almost everybody came out and had nothing but great things to say about him. But by all accounts, was a great guy. So yes, that was definitely very sad. Now, that was very sad, but hey, it's 2020, man. It's like it's going to be crazy when we look back at the end of the year, all the people lost this year.
Yeah.
Now this was again going back to. This is an aside. We're going to get back to this. This has nothing to do with what I'm talking about right now. I just want to get your guys' thoughts on this one, but we'll move on a little bit because I thought it was interesting. I was reading through and I saw this article. This article is from a website called Study Finds. Basically, it looks something similar to Medium. People kind of sum up different studies for you, but check the date on this. The date on this is June 19th of 2020. June 19th. In June 19th, 83% of Americans were very stressed over the nation's future. Well, how right were they to feel that way? How are we doing 4 months later, right? I mean, they seems like these people were right. So 7 in 10 Americans agree that 2020 is the lowest point in the country's history that they've witnessed. We're going to go through some of these. Like they have put some infographics out because the American Psychological, however you pronounce that word.
Could you repeat that statistic that most people say? So the majority of the participants in the study said that 2020 was the lowest point that they had experienced politically.
That they've witnessed in this country's history.
That they've been alive, not in the whole country's history, right?
That they've witnessed, yes.
Oh, that they've witnessed. Okay, cool. I agree with that. Would you say you agree with that?
I mean, it's easy for me. 9/11 was a pretty low point in America, so I don't know. But it definitely is close.
That's true. I was just barely an adult in 9/11.
I was even younger, but I mean, I remember 9/11 happening. I remember that like changed everything. I remember there's still things I bemoan to this day that were changed because of 9/11, but I want to go through a little bit more of this stuff. But we can go through the actual. Actually, hold on. Let's go through the actual statistics. They summed up some of the big ones there, but here is the actual study here. So this is from. This is one of the studies they did from the American Psychological Association, and we'll go through some more. But check out some of the numbers in here, and I'm going to zoom in a bit so we can see a little bit better. But this is the one that we had been talking about just before. Hold on, I'll have to zoom in digitally on it right here.
Yeah.
But so this is going off multiple different studies. A little bit hard to see, but I kind of just did it crudely. But so to that point, in 2017, going off an annual Stress in America survey, 59% of people had said that this was the lowest point they can remember. So it's an increase of which might be the craziest thing to me. From 2017 to 2020, it was only a 13% increase in people saying, and again, this is across different polls. You'll notice the 2020 numbers are sourced to the civil unrest survey, which is not what they source in the first two 17, 18, and 19 ones. But still, the reason why I thought this was interesting, going back to that earlier super chat from Ennis Greeny, when he said, I don't know that anyone that isn't scared in some way about civil war. I fear America is in more trouble than most think. A lot of people are right there with you, man. Like, most people feel this way. Some other crazy stuff that happened, right? And this shows you how much, and again, how much media reporting is, because whatever is going on with the relationship between the police and the black community, it didn't functionally change from May to June. It's been the same probably for decades, which people are saying, and that needs to change, right? Like, I don't think anyone's saying policing radically changed from May to June. Well, check this out. Across these two polls, they found a 13% increase in black Americans citing discrimination as a significant source of stress. I don't think discrimination in this country started in May 2020.
Yeah, so you think it's a lot of it's confirmation bias. I think a lot of it's confirmation bias.
I don't know what it is. All I know is you can see how things in this country, month by month by month. Yeah. I mean, it's just these are just some polls they've done, but still, stress levels in this country are just going up.
Well, and
this is just some shocking numbers.
It's you have oftentimes censured me for getting angry at something that a media source has published by saying, well, that's exactly how they want you to feel. Don't react that way because that's exactly how they want you to feel. I look at this and I think, all the media that wants to piss people off, sensationalize them, make them anxious, thinking that, I have to follow the ABC Tribune or Herald in order to get the news about how to protect myself from all of this police brutality, sickness, illness, plague, sky falling. They're getting what they want. I think to a certain extent.
A little bit, but still, you could see how, and again, the only reason I'm bringing it up is not saying people are wrong for feeling this way. I'm just saying that, I mean, whatever discrimination in this country is, it didn't functionally change in a month. But 13% more people responded saying it changed how they felt about it every day changed. So, I mean, just in general, and I want to get something really quickly.
Okay.
I want to get to two super chats, but from one person, $100 super chat from Adam Duffy. Thank you very much, man. We appreciate it a lot. He says, love the topic of the stream tonight. I want to let y'all know that you guys have been super influential in my life in the past year. Very cool, man. You guys taught me a whole host of new political and social perspectives. Carden, you inspired me to study poli-sci in college. Uh-oh.
Whoa.
And Cody, you made me want to start a podcast. Uh-oh. Which I have. Thought I'd show my appreciation tonight by dropping a big hundo. Keep up the hard work and don't stop problem solving.
You know,
thank you very much. Appreciate that very much.
That is the best super chat I've gotten, only because we've actually inspired somebody to study how our frickin' country works, which is the best system man has come up with. It is flawed, but it built these roads, okay? And also developing a voice and then exercising that voice, you know, developing their ideas and then using their free speech and First Amendment right to do it. That is what it's all about, ladies. My life, my job is done here. I've inspired one. Thank you, Adam Duffy.
Seriously appreciate it. And seriously, man, all the best wishes in both college and your podcasting adventure. Seriously.
Yeah, where are you going to college, by the way, Adam?
Yeah.
We'll give a shout out to the university. They're lucky to have you.
Depending.
That's awesome.
Depending.
Oh, that's true. Maybe we don't want to.
And
Okay.
just kidding.
They're going to look up his podcast.
But there was
and hunt him
one
down.
more big thing they had in this collection of polls they had done. I want to show you guys. And this is what's interesting. And again, this is tracking from 17, 18, 19, 20. This is where you see these radical 20% increase in the amount of people over 3 or a 4 year span that said the future of their nation is a significant source of stress. 83% of people. Again, this is sourcing the civil unrest survey. Keep that in mind. Yeah. Still, an increase from 2017 of 20%. 1 in 5 people. So 1 out of 5 people just 4 years ago would have said, future of our nation is not a significant threat. Just think about that. Damn near everybody says the future of the nation is now a significant source of stress. Significant. I got bad news. Damn near nobody can control the future of the nation. I kind of like even though 8 out of 10 people are concerned, I guarantee you 8 out of 10 people can want almost whatever they want. They're not going to get it from the government. Crazy, man. And it just keeps going. And then I want to get to one last number, and it's the number at the title of this video, right? And that is, how many people say the current political climate is a significant source of stress in their life? This is a more recent poll, I believe. I believe this poll counts up through July, I believe. Check this out. 77% of Democrats and 62% of Republicans say the current political climate is a significant source of stress. This is before both shootings we saw over the last 3 days. This is before the Jacob Blake videos, for all the other things that have came out that have made the people angrier, made things worse. Before all of that, 6 in 10 Republicans, damn near 8 in 10 Democrats.
Can I tell you that I actually completely understand why people are answering this way? Now, fortunately, I do feel that my religious convictions and the psychological training, okay, that happens when you actually maintain a faith helps keep your anxiety at bay, but it doesn't mean that it's not there, okay? And I do have to say, I mean, as a business owner, our governments have only shown an ability to turn on a dime and make legislation that could destroy your business on a dime. Socially, Americans would never think that you could just disagree over something and then all of a sudden you've got hashtag Captain America trending because Antifa guys are literally throwing trash can lids that look like, you know, millstones and hospitalizing cops who are completely innocent to whatever happened in a town. You'd see a guy shot, and then the rioters that shot him saying, "Oh yeah, we were just taking out the trash" in broad daylight. You know what I'm saying? I have a friend who installs security systems, and it is crazy for him right now because you can't trust that once somebody figures out how you voted, that you won't have a brick thrown through your window. You know what I'm saying? I think more for the conservatives than the. It's scientifically proven that liberals don't really have to worry about political violence like conservatives do, but even conservatives with low profiles are freaked out, feeling like there's no safe refuge. And if you got a family to worry about, then, dude, I know people that have straight up canceled Facebook. You know what I'm saying? Because their husbands got new jobs. And it used to be that like, hey, what your wife thinks is different than you. But now, no, you'll get fired for what your wife posted on Facebook. And so if even your like employment and the way that you feed yourself and the way that you live your life is no longer off limits, that's actually the term right there. I think, Cody, it's because nothing is off limits anymore.
Or sacred? Is that another word?
Yeah,
for it?
nothing is sacred anymore. And when nothing is sacred, all of a sudden the bandwidth of things that you have to worry about is totally amplified. And that's why the stress level is going up, is because now it used to be you didn't have to worry about your job. If, hey, I think taxes should be 65% and my neighbor thinks they should be 35%, we can still at least agree to disagree and settle this in the ballot box. But now it's like, wow, my neighbor thinks taxes should be 65%. I think they should be 35%. I better not speak or I'm going to have a brick thrown through my window.
All right. Just in case.
That's where the anxiety's coming from.
In case anyone was concerned, Cardin's a political victim. Always. But anyways.
Well, I'm going to hit the super chat.
I was going to get to right now. Again, Adam Duffy, $10 more. Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. He said, also, Cody, this might be to your chagrin. Nice word. But I'm running for Congress in 2028, so look out for that. Going to Georgia State University.
What?
Georgia State's fine. And no, go ahead and run, man. Actually, I tell you what, in 2028, let me know. I'll be supporting you. And then he says, all right, promise I'm done now, but also shout out to everyone in the chat. Y'all are amazing, too. Yes, thank you all for being here. You guys all are
This
amazing.
episode is sponsored by Adam Duffy.
Most one of the things, though, when we don't do these streams for a few days, seriously, we do miss you guys. So thank you all for being here. You guys are awesome for being here. But and it's not about something I mentioned, but I want something else, too. And I want to make sure people see this, because I think this is important to people understand. I don't know one's going to care, but whatever. 60% of Americans don't only say that they care about police violence against minority communities, they cite it as a significant source of stress in their life. Like, there's a majority of Americans that are worried about the things going on in this country. I think it's important to...
Yeah, we're not a bad white supremacist country if 60% of
not
us are
even
saying...
That. It's just that, like people in general are concerned about these things. Why they're stressed about it. It's just important to keep in mind that, like, there's this... I definitely see we are at risk of falling into becoming a very remarkably callous country. And it's good to see. I mean, I don't know if like people are stressed out about things. You know what I mean? Like, we have to make sure we don't do that. We don't fall into complete callousness. Now, this number doesn't mean anything. It's a number. But still, it's like the stuff going on in this country isn't happening in a vacuum. People are paying attention and they're noticing. They're seeing the things that are happening in the world in front of them. Something is about COVID, the COVID lockdowns and stuff. It's like, dude, I live in this world. I go outside. I see things around me. And it's... Anyways, I'm not going to get into this forever. But this all leads me to something pretty interesting. This is theory science. I don't want to call it pseudoscience, but it's theory science. But it's been right before. And generally, it's the idea of kind of the science to, or the patterns of unrest in developed countries, or just in America. So check this out. Now, I can't not notice that this article was written by that starts off Moscow, Russia as the location. But anyway.
I was about to say, these Moscow, Russian studies are always so cynical because we covered one already about how the social scientists in Russia said that America would break up into 5 different Americas.
The study itself's not from there. I think it's just the author from this. Like I said, this is kind of like a medium from when I looked at. Anyway, though, I just thought it was funny. At least it doesn't say it was like Stalingrad. Anyway, the outbreak of civil unrest and rioting in many cities this year may seem like a spontaneous reaction to social issues, but one study says there's nothing spontaneous about them. Despite the fact the vast majority of protesters are demonstrating peacefully. This article was written August 28th, okay. Scenes of looting and violence still mar these protests that are meant to be non-violent. One scientist is being credited with predicting in 2010 the turmoil being seen across the globe today.
Are they meant to be non-violent?
They go into this. Using an innovative... Oh, it happened again. Dude, we got to fix what's going on with the camera. I don't know what got knocked on it, but there we go. Oh, there we go. It's broken again. So let me fix this.
Yeah, that happened to me the other day too, and I don't know what the issue is. It's very, very strange
never
to
used
me.
to happen. I don't know what it is. Anyway.
Okay. Sorry about that. Continue.
Anyway, They mention here that using an innovative mathematical theory, researchers say they can show when countries will face social and political unrest. The United States, they say violent surges occur once every 50 years, and this one is tragically right on time. So Peter Turchin, Russian-American scientist from the University of Connecticut, used the structural demographic theory to accurately predict the increasing protests in the U.S. and Western Europe through the 2010s. In a new paper in the journal PLOS ONE, Turchin and co-author Andrei Korotev look back at how math can actually forecast future events. But what's interesting is they have a chart here. See if I can pull this up in a way where it doesn't. Oh my god, pictures for ants, man, all across the internet. Pictures for ants. Let's see if I can blow it up a little bit. But you'll notice something. So the green line is anti-government demonstrations. The red line is riots. How you split that hair, I gotta be honest. Now, okay, when the Lakers won the title in 2002 and rioted, I think you could safely say it's not an anti-government demonstration. But sometimes they probably do blend together. But you'll notice, if you look, from 1950, just after World War II, pretty calm. Heading into the 60s, ramping up. Peaked right there in the middle of the 60s, came back down in the 70s, stayed pretty flat for about the next 40 years. You didn't see a lot, according to this study in the 80s, 90s, which, I mean, outside of the Rodney King riots in LA in the 90s, I would say that's probably more or less, which interests me with anti-government. Anyway, keep going, and you'll notice how those things have now started to spike off the charts, not too dissimilar to how they were charting these things in 1960s, which I would believe would be during some of the anti-war protests and a lot of other stuff. Probably why you see anti-government demonstrations on the rise there too. But you'll notice that stuff's kind of going through the roof, and it's on that trend. So that's not to say they're right or wrong about everything, but what is concerning is what they get to. And that is, do they have it here? Where do they mention it? But there's, reason to believe things like this could last for a while. 10 to 15 years, which they say the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, is unpredictable, yet Turchin, a specialist in cliodynamics, the mathematical modeling of socio-historical processes, that sounds like a niche community, finds the protests and social conflicts spilling into American streets happening at regular intervals throughout history. The original 2010 study reveals outbursts of violence in the 1870s, 1920s, and 1970s. I'm a bit ignorant to the 1870s, I must admit.
No, that was...
that'd be the Civil War. Coming up on the Civil War.
No, the Civil War was the 1850s. The 1870s was when all the Carnegies and all it was the unionization riots.
Yeah, but post-Civil War issues, exactly. So we go 1920s, which of course was a global pandemic and a war. 1970s was it was a pretty bad recession, right?
Well, there's also the end of the Vietnam War.
Yeah, and then the recession, and then
OPEC.
But they mentioned the 50-year cycles reach a crisis point as society becomes increasingly unstable, which the forecast seems to be actively predicting for 2020. Disturbingly, the cliodynamics experts, how do you say that, says these periods of social turmoil can last between 10 to 15 years. Now, because I've been doing a lot of reading and listening and watching about Napoleon recently, it reminds me of something interesting. And it has to do with him, but he didn't say it. I believe it was an Austrian or Russian general who said this. Basically, early on when Napoleon was doing all his nonsense trying to conquer all these countries, I think one of them said something along the lines of, you could throw this map of Europe out for the next 10 years because it won't matter. Because there's so much, there's going to be so much war, fighting, borders changing. I really hope we're not that here where it's like you could throw out regular social norms for the next 10 years. That's not where America is anymore. I hope that's not where it is. I hope we don't start seeing people. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it really wouldn't take more than a few years for people to start migrating in mass to different states based on ideological reasons. It really wouldn't take more than a few.
No, we're already seeing that in California.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like Californians are leaving. Like, what I'm talking about is this. I'm talking about we could see.
There's entire real estate agencies based on this.
No, we could see blue voters leaving red states to blue states and red voters leaving blue states to red states. I'm saying that could take just a few years to happen to enough of a degree to tie things up. Because, I don't think I have to tell you guys the polarization we're seeing. I'm seeing like politicians and like legit journalists write things where I'm just like, wow, that feels like that feels like a call to action, I guess is one way of putting it, right? And it's it's ramping up. Now we'll get through just going through some numbers and interesting stuff going on.
Well, you're saying that it's going beyond basically a political difference to all of a sudden making it seem like you're encouraging action. And I got to say, Cody, we're already seeing that. You got to look up.
Just like saw, the Civil War was in the 1850s, dude. It was in the 1860s. Yeah, that's why 1870s, I imagine, was very unstable as it was Reconstruction and the other things right when the war ended.
Yeah, no, and that's also when we started doing our first huge infrastructure projects. Like, there was massive infrastructure that went up in the 1870s because steel was invented.
Dude,
I think that's what made Carnegie so rich.
Reconstruction was a ridiculously violent time. Not violent, unstable time. I mean, I want to do a stream just talking about that, though, because there's something very interesting, and we were talking about this before, about the American Civil War.
Okay.
There is generally the question of what do you do to your enemies after you've defeated them? In World War II, we're going to put you on trial and kill you was basically the reaction. Like, anyone who was part of the wrong side of World War II and the wrong part of Europe, they got Nuremberg trials, and that didn't... We'll see how that went for them, right? Mm-hmm. But it was a deliberate act from the Americans, from the Union, after the end of the Civil War, not to put these people up against a wall and shoot them.
Yeah, and Lincoln was specifically
interesting,
trying to be forgiving.
Because would there have been people in the North that realistically after the war, I mean, I wasn't alive then, but I imagine there's some people that might have said, good riddance. I guarantee you there wasn't big outcry in America. I can't guarantee you, but I haven't read of much outcry in America when we're doing it to Nazis.
Yeah.
We're putting them up against the wall and saying, well, found you guilty. But it's very deliberate in America. We didn't do that, even though we could have. And again, I always appreciate... Now, look, who knows why? I believe it's just because strong leaders understand how benevolence does work in your favor. But still, it is very interesting. But I guess what's scary, though, the reason why I bring it up, if there was some new civil anything, not even a war, but like... All right. You can just keep talking.
No, I'm actually reading the chat here. It's actually kind of funny that apparently Reconstruction ended in 1877. So it looks like you're right on this. I for some reason I thought in the 1870s steel had taken off, and that's why the railroads all of a sudden were able to gain so much power, and the New York skyline changed so drastically in the 1880s and 1890s. Was because of steel being able to be a structural, occurrence. I don't know exactly how to call it. A happening, shall you say. But, yeah. So before you had that aside, Cody, you were talking about people moving to other states, right? I kind of think it's already happened. Have you seen the real estate agencies that...
No. But again, my point wasn't people would move. My point was people won't leave California who are blue California voters who don't like California. I'm saying this. Blue voters will leave Texas. They'll leave, leave South Dakota.
Well, and red voters will leave California.
To California. No one's moving into California.
Okay, so you think it'll get to a point...
People will move to states to be with their kind of voter. That's my point.
Well, yeah, but that's been happening forever.
No, a little bit, but not to this degree.
I know people that moved to West Hollywood just so they could be around more gay people.
But we're I used the wrong wording. Political allies. Okay. We're seeing blue voters leave California.
Okay.
We're seeing blue voters leave New York. I'm talking in the inverse. It wouldn't take that long to see the inverse. Okay. Blue voters leave quiet, safe states to go to the blue states, and red voters leaving these dense blue states to go to the sparsely populated red states. That would be a bad sign.
Yeah, I agree. And so, we'll kind of just have to look at the data. You know what I'm saying? And see what happens.
Thankfully, it's not happening now. But, I mean, it wouldn't take that long to happen. Think about it. Would it take more than 3 or 4 years? Would it take more than one term of a president for that to realistically happen?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think so because actually I'm going to segue into this super chat by answering that question because only a small percentage would have to do it before if 3% moved for that same reason, then or 4% moves, classic 4% rule. Only 4% of a population has to develop and espouse an idea and work on that idea's behalf in order for the entire population to adopt that revolutionary idea. I really only think you would need a 4% shift in people moving out of a state simply for political reasons. And I think AI and marketing is going to contribute to that. We've already noticed that, actually. It's because of the rewards that social media had for people putting out clickbaity, racially tinged and really controversial and muck-raking articles that led to the boost of venture capitalist-based online media, which has basically divided us for 10 years. If you think about it, that's what's divided us for 10 years, is the whole Breitbart versus HuffPost argument.
But that's the media. Honestly, a little bit of a hot take here, I guess you could say. But like, honestly, man, I think you can go back to 1941 to everything that's all the turmoil in this world today. There's been it's no coincidence. There's the Great War of the Nationalists, like the World War I, where all these countries became super nationalistic, bombastic, colonial stuff was still going on. They all fought each other, killed each other. In World War II, who was one of the main, not belligerents, but who was one of the main proponents of World War II? The Soviet Union. Like that was there was in I believe it was 1941 when Operation Barbarossa was launched, when the Germans tried to invade Russia. That would have basically been to squell out communism forever. And I was saying communism is good or bad. I want to get into that argument separate. But my point being is we've kind of been in this back and forth struggle of collectivist society or more individualist society ever since. There's been no great wars to decide it. Normally a war would decide it. Normally these two sides would square off and then the war would happen, but there was no great war. And to this day, it feels to be there's more of collectivist style of politics and there's more individualistic style of politics, and that's the main divide. Okay. It manifests in different ways, right? But whenever I listen to people talk, it's always like, okay, it seems like the point you're making is we should have more collectivist society to protect more people. And the point you're making is the government should be reducing its size to have more individualistic society, I guess. And then it gets finer, and there's more minutia, more nuance and detail. Please, trust me, I understand that much. Yeah. But it feels like this general back and forth tug and pull of should we have these more authoritarian collectivist societies? Should we progress that way? Or should we continue progressing down these more freedom-oriented individualistic republic societies, right? Like those are the two people who keep going to war. Yeah. It's why are China, Russia, and America always butting heads? Is there any fundamental differences they have with each other? You know, I mean,
well, yeah, but I think what you're suggesting is more of an urban versus rural argument. Like, if you really wanted to, you could kind of just call
urban versus rural. Dude, there's urban communists, there's rural communists, and there's urban libertarian, don't tread on me type. What I'm talking about is there's this big fundamental divide in political thought between modern Western thinkers. Should we move towards a more collective socialist society, or should we keep down this more individualistic Republican societies?
Which side do you think is winning?
Sadly, I think in the end, collectivism will win out. And I say sadly because I just don't know. Personally, I'm not a collectivist type of thinker. But it seems Mussolini said the 20th century would be the century of collectivism. And I think he was just a century off. I think it's the 21st century. It's going to be the century of collectivism.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to see more and more governments rise up around that idea. The idea of, and they can call it whatever they want. They've called it a billion things in the past. But the idea that, we're going to come together and kind of make the... everything within the state, I guess you could say.
So what makes you think that we're moving more towards collectivism? Do you have any kind of not measurable quantifiers?
I think people are just becoming less individualistic. It's like,
because I don't know how
I guess to be dramatic, you can almost visualize it as like a flame within humanity. And that flame within humanity is dimming and dimming. And there was a point when it was dim and it raged and we had freedom across the world. We liberated countries across the world. And then probably the fire will recede and we'll see these countries go back to how they were. I would not be surprised to see like vassal states in another 10 to 15 years if things continue on this way.
Vassal states? Oh, wow. So how would you define a modern vassal state?
Well, the satellite states in the Soviet Union were pretty good.
So like Finland, a la 1957.
It's just any country that basically is like another country tells them you'll pay tribute to us and do what we say or else we'll invade you. But
really?
Dude,
who would be our vassal state?
We're living in a time of near unprecedented global peace. Do you think about that?
Yeah.
Think about that. Near unprecedented global peace.
Yeah.
And again, that's weird to say because there's been conflicts all around the world. Don't you forget, but like there used to be damn man, like the 18th, like for like there was a couple hundred years where there was just endless war in parts of endless war. You go back far enough, they literally had what they called the 100 Years' War because there's so many wars between France and Europe. France and England fought each other so long and the funny thing is, it's not like France and England stopped fighting when the 100 Years' War ended. They kept fighting after that too. I mean, we really are in a time where countries are at a greater state of peace than they've been like ever. I don't know. It'd be almost foolish to imagine it lasts forever. We'll just stay in peace. I'll only get one super chat with my melon. Oh, 2 super chats.
Yeah.
Sly Cactus. You got to the Sly Cactus.
No, I was going to read the Sly Cactus one and I got distracted. So, okay. Basically, Sly Cactus asks, curious question. Why do some people give polls so much merit when their sample sizes are always diminutive? First off, Sly Cactus, A for use of the word diminutive. That was awesome. Second off, they give polls so much merit because if actually done and a certified scientific poll is executed, you actually can have a very small sample size that is very representative of the way people think. A very credible poll, usually, especially opinion polls, is done on about 2,000 to 4,000 people that you will see. However, if you are actually taking a truly random sample of the population, you'll notice that the graphs and the bell curves developed in statistics by 2,000 person samples are oftentimes almost exactly the same as the graphs and bell curves developed by 20,000 person samples. So why use up all the resources and the money pulling 20,000 if you can get the exact same information out of 2,000? Okay, so that's the reason why oftentimes the sample sizes seem small. If you see a sample size based off of only like 400 to 800 people, which oftentimes you do, even from reputable polling organizations, which we would even quote during the early days of Andrew Yang's campaign, then you can be a little bit more dubious because that's when the quote margin of error gets really, really wide. The larger the sample size, the more confident that the polling organization is in its numbers. So the margin of error gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's why some people can give polls a lot of merit because first off, they don't even understand what sample sizes are and they think that everybody's been polled. 2, they don't get the science of statistics. And 3, you can actually have confidence in a relatively small sample size as long as the methodologies are correct. And that's why when Andrew Yang was running, when Donald Trump was running for the first time around and so on and so forth, I kept on screaming from the rooftops, guys, you can't be taking these polls seriously because their methodologies are bad because, for example, they weren't calling people on cell phones. They weren't allowing internet polling to be done, which would completely exclude somebody like Cody. Cody is not answering the phone for a pollster.
But here's the thing. Even if a pollster called me and I picked up and they said, "Hey, I would just say no."
Yeah,
but that's
you might do an internet poll.
I'm a bit of an asshole in this sense.
Yeah.
But I honestly have a feeling of like, who are you to deserve?
Who are these people?
But like, who are you to deserve me just telling you what I think because you called my phone? Like, get the hell out of here.
Okay.
Like, just, oh yeah, let me just stop what I'm doing to tell this random stranger what I think. Go pound sand, man.
Go pound sand.
I'll keep my thoughts to myself. Thank you very much.
All right. Carrie.
Ironically enough, saying that on a live stream to people, but still, you're
yeah. So that's why I think people will have so much. I don't want to say faith, but they will. They'll give so much credence to a lot of these polls.
But also, what's the word?
Faith.
Confirmation bias?
Yeah, confirmation bias.
Polls either are stupid and don't matter, or man, look at this poll.
Yeah.
Dude, why would anyone trust polls? Or holy cow, did you see this poll?
Yeah.
One more super chat. My melanated scope. $2.99 said, let's go to war then, y'all. Hey, people out there talking about revolution. Anyone out there talking about revolution, I encourage anybody talking revolution at all. Read about the French Revolution and what happened in revolutionary France. Not for the tired, oh, they beheaded people who were wrong. No, everyone tried to invade them because they appeared weak.
Yeah.
And like wars sprouted out. You know what happened? You know what big thing that happened in a revolution? Keep this and you put this in your noggin if you have a certain type of revolution. think about it. Most of Europe during the revolution, the French Revolution, was emperors and kings. So when they see the French kill their king and basically say down with monarchs, down with tyrants, think about how they feel in their head where they're like, I don't want my people killing me.
Yeah.
So I have to oppose this. I don't know. The more, because the language around whatever revolution we're seeing in our streets today does feel closer to the French Revolution than like there's no overt. It's not like the Russian, we're just going to install communism type revolutions.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is more. Anyway, I don't want to go too far, but yeah, just around the idea of war. Like, that's what happens, man. Like people are going to be like, what? You don't think China would look at America and think, oh, they're weak? Russia wouldn't think we're weak.
Oh,
They
Russia
wouldn't
in a
try to
heartbeat.
spur it on, right? Like,
China would wonder who they're going to sell their crap to. That's what happened with China.
hey, someone's the time to look for our Napoleon. I agree. Even though there'll never
Cody,
be.
I think you could do
There'll
it.
never be another Napoleon.
No, I think you could
No,
be
there'll never be
Napoleon.
another Napoleon.
I think you'd
The
be a
reason
gamer
why-
Napoleon.
Well, the reason why Napoleon
You would make the gamers rise.
There'll never be another leader of a nation who is also like the general on the front commanding the troops. That'll never happen again. That's just not the way war works anymore. Like, could you imagine George W. Bush on the ground in Iraq, like patting with binoculars? Like, all right,
Actually,
we need to move
W?
these. Like, could you imagine Obama sitting there with binoculars?
Not
like, drone
Obama,
strike
but
that
I can
wedding?
see
Like,
W.
Like seriously, like that's just not gonna
I
happen.
could see little W because W was short, so he kind of would be more Napoleonic, right? I know
Again,
it's
you know-
pseudoscience that
It's not even
Napoleon wasn't
pseudoscience.
actually
It's just
short.
guess who hated the French?
The
English. Guess
English,
what
and so
language
they
we
called them
speak?
short.
English. So we know a lot about the hatred they. That's what I think is funny. It's like, I remember I was talking with one of my relatives and I brought that up. Like, so why do the French hate us then? I'm like, because we're English. Because we speak English. Like,
Hey, by the way,
they
Cody,
hated each other and killed each other for forever. So they don't like each other.
I figured out a way for us to come out of this mess of political division. See, I had a buddy who was a UCLA. He was actually an employee of mine, super genius kid that I went to church with as well. And he was a history major at UCLA, which was intriguing. So we would get into deep conversations and he would bring out all kinds of golden nuggets of wisdom all the time. Like, for example, did you know that the whole reason why we think that pirates speak like, "Arg, how you do, matey," like that was not because they actually spoke that way, but because there was an actor in the 20s who was friends with Rudolph Valentino, who simply was cast in the role as a pirate. And when talkies came out for the first time, he thought he would alter his voice in order to distinguish his characters from others. And he just started talking like that. And because of that whole "Arg, how you do, matey," actually stuck in the American zeitgeist. And now we just think that's how pirates talk, but it's not at all historically accurate.
Dude, again. Almost any, whoa, that's really cool. I didn't know they said that quote you've heard in your life's a lie. It's so funny. You go online, and try to find good, reputable backing for quotes you see passed around famous people. They're all just made up. Like, no, they never said that. No, they never. Just because I happened to be doing a lot of Napoleon reading recently.
Yeah.
There was a claim that Napoleon had referred to the English as a nation of shopkeepers, and that went back to him. And it's like, there's no real backing. I think somewhere someone said that maybe.
So, well, I've got an answer for us, Cody. So
my only thing is this: over time, we'll just come up with a quote. It'll sound nice. We'll attribute it to someone. It'll get attributed to them, and they never said it, and that just continues for forever.
Yeah. So my friend, who was the UCLA history cat, brought up a really good point that you might think about, but I thought about for a long time. And he said, in all of his observations of history, he realized one thing: that all empires begin their decline immediately the second they stop conquering landmass. And he said, I'm curious what will happen with America, because whether we like it or not, America is an empire of ideas. And we didn't really start turning inward until there was no external expansion of landmass. And one could argue that the Cold War was basically a Cold War over the expansion of an idea over a landmass. So anyway, he said that. He said empires start falling once they quit expanding, which I thought, okay, interesting. How does that apply to America? And we've basically, tried this Monroe Doctrine of not, being a colonialist anymore. What if we just said, screw the international accord of not claiming the moon, and just went to the moon and started just planting American flags.
So become a belligerent in the next World War.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, we're not going. No country's going to go to war with us over the moon. But then here we are launching astronauts into space.
They wouldn't?
Who's going to go to us over war over the moon?
It's not over the moon. It's the fact that a country has decided that they're going to start conquering space. You be damned. But I think that...
Yeah, maybe we get our spirit back.
I will say...
the new space race 2.0.
I'm going to bang on policy for. I do believe the future of this continent is a North American superstate. I'm coming more and more to that thought.
Really? Where we merge with Canada and New Mexico or Mexico?
Yeah. That's starting to, but again, that's my own crackpot theory. You'll never hear me like banging on about it and trying to make it happen. I just feel like that is the way it should be. There should be a North American, but maybe to your point, right? Like what if we did annex Canada, right?
Okay.
I mean, I was thinking about it. We probably could come up with some BR political reason to annex Canada on like just English bonds or, descendants of the crown, stuff like that. Basically steal Canada from England. French Canada might be an issue. I mean, because think about it. Both Canada, Mexico, and America have, all three of those countries are the products of European colonialism. All three.
Yeah.
Very strongly so. Other countries in Central and South America as well, right? But
basically almost all of South America except for some indigenous populations.
But a majority of the modern Mexican population seems to be more descendants of the European colonizers than the native populations of the area. That's just my dumb guess, but it seems to be that
I couldn't speak to Mexican population numbers, but for example, 85% of the population of Buenos Aires is a direct descendant of Spanish or Italian ancestry, and then in the provinces it's German. There's Indian ancestry out in a lot of the rural areas, indigenous ancestry, but yeah, it's wildly European in many of these areas.
Oh yeah,
traceable to individual countries.
Well,
yeah.
there's the boxer. Oh my god, I'm blanking on the boxer's name. It's crazy. He lives in a part, I guess, of northern Mexico that was settled by Irish immigrants, I think.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. You'll see redhead
totally
Mexicans that totally speak Mexican
What's the word
Spanish.
for cinnamon in Spanish?
Oh, cinnamon is not cero. That's
there's a boxer. That's his nickname because he has San Diego.
Yeah.
But it's funny. He looks Irish, and I don't know if he speaks much English. He's from Mexico. He's a Mexican guy. He speaks predominantly Spanish. But it's just hilarious because he looks like he's from Ireland, and he's just predominantly speaks Spanish.
Canela. That's it. Canela.
Yeah, Canelo. Oh my God, what's his name? Canelo. Because he's the male. Canelo Alvarez. Forgot his first name. But yeah, there's parts like that. I thought that was funny. Somebody said that their Canadian relatives will never join the USA. Again, it would, in order to get Canadians to come in peacefully, it'd probably have to be pitched as a unification of the North American Anglos. Again,
do you think they do it?
When I say Anglo, I specifically mean English speaker. That's it.
Cody.
Well, because I know there's different meanings. It could be made of English descent. I guess it could mean white non-Hispanic. But I just mean the idea being, look, we're all descendants of the English crown originally. We all speak English. But anyway, moving past that, I'm gonna get some super chats. NS Screeny $2. He says Twitter equals Robespierre didn't turn out well for him. Nope, things did not turn out well for Robespierre.
By the way, tell us the story how he was a total pansy. How those in the crown actually died valiantly.
Allegedly, and this is where we get to the propaganda edge history. I don't want to go too far into it, but allegedly, once Robespierre, for those of you who don't remember from school, Robespierre was the man basically left in charge after the French Revolution. He for whatever reason, became convinced that in order to maintain power, there needed to be, I believe he was the one, or one of his aides or whatever referred to it as a great terror. He went around beheading people for a very long time to kind of cement his authority, I guess. You can get into the arguments of why he did it. Anyway, allegedly, the story goes, while some of the nobility and some of the clergy he sent to the guillotine went there in nobility and grace. Once he was brought before the guillotine, he was screaming and crying and pounding his feet and demanding they spared his life, and they didn't. But yes,
dude,
you'd be surprised, but ordering the deaths of innocent people tends to come back on you.
Yeah.
You never guess, but for whatever reason, the world seems to get you back when you order the deaths of innocent people. And then DVIJ461 said, the world has enough for every man's need, not every man's greed. That's interesting, yeah. Because also, every man's need is also very interesting, too, because people have different need. Interesting quote, but like in many quotes, you probably have to look into it 4 or 5 times to really get the true meaning out of it.
Yeah, I hear you. So, I totally dig that you're a French Revolution guy. I actually really appreciate that about you, Cody.
I mean, that is. I mean, there's a lot.
What other analogies do you
was
have
going
of the
on.
French Revolution going on right now? Based upon your knowledge of the French Revolution, do you think we're going through a social French Revolution?
No, nothing like. Dude, the French Revolution.
Because the people are rising up.
They
and they're-
literally killed their king. I'm sorry. I mean,
yeah, but we're killing all of our social kings, and we're canceling them in proverbial
I'm not using
guillotines.
I'm not using the word literal in a different sense here. They literally brought their king in front of the crowd in a square and cut his head off. It's very
hardcore.
different tenor. No, the French Revolution was a brutal, violent.
Was there anything else in
revolution.
history that was like the French Revolution, where you can think of people actually being able to drag out the king and publicly execute him?
Oh yeah, stuff like this happened before. Just the reason why
I know it's happened before. No, come to
But the reason I'm
mind.
bringing it up is because remember, ideologically, the American dude. Where was Ben Franklin during the Revolution? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was in France.
Yeah, well, like there was a lot of ideological ties between French.
He was
between
with half
French
the
and white-
royalty's wives.
Yeah, French Enlightenment and the American Revolution are gonna go hand. That's the only reason why I think it's interesting
Yeah.
is because Thomas Jefferson was, there's records. Thomas Jefferson largely praised the French Revolution, even when it was killing innocent people.
Yeah,
'Cause to him,
Jefferson was kind of a punk. I'll be
But to
honest
him,
with you.
ideologically, that was very in line with the American ideal, down to tyrants. I mean, wasn't it Jefferson who said, was it? God, I forgot who it was. Again, these quotes, right? But was it? Or was it Ben Franklin who said that every now and then the tree of liberty needs to be watered with the blood of
with
tyrants?
the blood of
Or
patriots and
whatever it was.
tyrants. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it was. But you see, I mean, like, there was definitely a tenor of that kind of stuff. No, I don't. It's just the only reason why I think it's interesting is for that reason. I mean, the French Revolution happened 1790s.
Yeah.
American Revolution was what, a couple decades before that?
Yeah.
I mean, like, the two things kind of do go hand in hand. And it just, I think the big thing it speaks to, though, throughout history, let me know what you guys think in chat. I'm probably wrong about this, but throughout history, it does seem to be when your oppressor is foreign, revolutions seem to work better. When it's a domestic oppressor, things seem to get too messy. The tensions run too
Yeah.
high. Innocent people just are getting killed in mass.
Yeah.
But like, for example, once the English had been repelled from North America,
Yeah.
nobody was saying, and now we sail to England and kill the king. I mean, people just kind of said, cool, we're independent.
Yeah.
It's different when they're in the palace. People might say, well, let's march to Marseille and kill the king then.
Yeah.
And it's not what happened literally then, but you know what I mean? Like when
Yeah.
your oppressor's foreign and you get them to leave you alone, it's easier to say, cool, now they got you to leave us alone, we're back to us. But when they're right there domestically, it's kind of hard not to go all the way and say, fine, now let's march on them and kill them.
Yeah.
But again, history is really complicated, very nuanced, a lot of deep things. I just lately have been fascinated by Napoleon, doing some Napoleon reading, and the history of Napoleon is very, very much entwined with the French Revolution. So it's been interesting to me lately. That's just my personal angle and bias on it.
Legit, man. Legit. So, do you think then any of these predictions by our Russian scientist friend that we mentioned in the previous article are going to come true?
A decade of unrest?
Do you think it's going to get worse?
It could get normalized very quick, and then, yeah, it could go on for a decade easier.
Okay, see, you think it would. You think it could.
I didn't say it would. I said it could, yes.
If we had such lack of leadership. Like, for example, if we had a Joe Biden president, absolutely. If we had a Kamala Harris president, I don't know. I'm not sure. So I think she'd send in the freaking feds, man, on anybody and everybody.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, there'd be no rioting in Queen Kamala Street. She'd be like, oh, no,
Yeah.
no way. I'm not going to stand for this.
Now, granted, she'd only be arresting Trump supporters. You know what I'm saying?
No,
But,
she'd be Trump supporters. Yeah. When Joe Biden, you know what? This country is so stupid. Watch Joe Biden be president for 3 years, and they'll still call anybody who criticizes him a Trump supporter. Like, dude, Donald Trump could have already been hung for crimes he allegedly committed, and
Yeah.
people will still be calling people who don't like Joe Biden Trump supporters.
Yeah.
Watch how stupid this country is. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen.
That's funny, man. That's super funny. So, okay.
Hold on. Marcos Gonzalez brought something up.
Okay.
So the only issue with the North American super country, which will happen, I agree, is that Mexico cartels are too powerful and pit local and feds against each other because corruption. It's a failed state. I hear that, but I also do think uniquely one thing about the Mexican cartel, I think one of the reasons why they could be folded
Oh, just pure money.
We could negotiate some territory for them, and yeah, they are very capitalist. It'd be a capitalist superstate that encompassed Mexico, Canada, and North America, and United States. Business negotiations, basically. We'd bring them to the table. I think it'd be a way of doing it. However, because here's the other thing too. Realistically, if you were to negotiate to annex Mexico, because I do believe that what happened with the United States taking the lead, yeah, you probably wouldn't negotiate with the president of Mexico. You negotiate with the cartels. So, interesting point you bring up. But I do feel like, again, just the kind of there'd be enough capitalist. The fact that North America's where all their customers are. I mean, United States is where all their customers are, and everyone wants to make money. I could probably work it out.
Yeah. Okay. My other thought too is, I don't know, culturally, like you'd have to be able to conquer the culture. And I don't know if the culture of corruption of Mexico, like that's the way it runs.
You have to conquer culture.
I could see Canada joining a little bit more with America kind of ish before I could see people that are benefiting off of the corruption of Mexico saying, okay.
Well, again, okay.
Yeah.
We may have to annex one of these countries, but
Yeah.
well, I'm serious. If we gave Canada terms of their surrender, would they really say no? We're gonna go to war with you?
Yeah, it's true.
They
That's
probably
true.
wouldn't. I imagine.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I was looking at a map too.
Although they got that one sniper, dude.
I guess, but one second.
Yeah.
Look at a map of North America. Anyone
on.
in chat again? I'll pull map of North America up. I want to ask you guys strategically. Not even strategically. I just think it's so funny. I was thinking about something like this recently, right? And you look at a map of North America. This is so funny to me. I was thinking about if the United States split up or not, right?
Okay. Hit it.
This isn't even a great map, but even this shows you guys enough what I'm trying to get to here.
Is this the Mercator projection?
Why do you think the United States of America owns Alaska? I mean, Alaska isn't a...
Well, the truth is we also nailed all that coastline.
Yeah, but I'm saying, as far as I know, very good point. Look how far south we own, and
look at
what's
that
the point of
coastline.
owning basically nothing inland down here? Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
It is pretty funny to look
took
at
all that coastline,
the
dude.
strategical benefit of owning Alaska. Because, yeah, like, there, as far as I know, there's no, like, natural geometric or, like, naturally occurring... There's no, like, rivers or oceans or mountain ranges, as far as I know, that separate Alaska from Canada. It's basically like we're just like, ooh, we want to make sure we control the Gulf of Alaska, so we're going to buy Alaska.
Hey, they got the Hudson Bay, bro.
That's what I mean.
They got the Hudson Bay.
No, the Canadians. We see. I mean, it seriously looks like the Americans wanted this Gulf of Alaska right here to protect itself from on its west coast, and that's why we own it. Because, yeah, I mean, we own... I mean, there's this really small strip of the coast of British Columbia right here that's different, but for the most part, yeah.
So so help me out with my Canadian geography here. There's BC, British Columbia. There's AB, which is Alberta. Then there's QC, which is
Saskatchewan,
Quebec. Saskatchewan,
Montreal,
Ontario.
Quebec.
Well, what's that YT up by Alaska?
I honestly don't know. I don't know.
YT,
You know what?
NT, and
No one
NU.
lives here, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Seriously, I think no one lives here.
Dude, I interviewed the Canadian Red Bull air racer. Did I ever tell you that story?
No, it's really cool. Manitoba, thank you. MT is Manitoba.
Oh, yeah, Manitoba.
Wait, no, hold on. Is that an M? It looks like an N from here. Oh, the MT. Sorry, Manitoba, yeah. Not
Okay.
Montreal. Montreal's a city, I believe. Thank you. Montreal's a city in Quebec. See, American geography. I can never...
Okay, so MT,
I get burned.
I think
Thank
the
you.
largest,
Correction.
okay, I don't think it's in Saskatchewan.
Hold on.
Yeah?
Oh, that doesn't sound right either. Yes, Montreal, just correction. Montreal, indeed a city. Manitoba. Dude, our Canadian... You know what, though? As an American, I don't feel bad not knowing Canadian geography. If any Canadian can rattle off all 50 states, I'd call him... If any Canadian can rattle off all 50 states and where they're located, I'd call him a serf to America, because he shouldn't know that.
Okay, so you got to look up this cat right now. Pete McLeod is his name. Pete McLeod.
Oh,
This
one second.
dude is BA. He's a Red Bull air racer.
Wait 1 second. I want to get through this just for our Canadian friends.
Okay.
I'll no respect. NT, we have the Northwestern Territories.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
NU, Nunavut? I've never heard of that. You could be just clowning on me. I've never even heard of that before.
Nunavut.
Very
Nunavut. That's how they
And you know
pronounce
what's
it.
so much fun
Nunavut.
too? Marcos Gonzalez just said, "Remember when Trump wanted to buy Greenland? It wasn't a joke." Yeah, to the same point. If we bought Greenland, we basically would be just secure
Yeah.
from both of like the north, and like there'd be no way to get in here. That is pretty funny. Look at a map.
At any moment, we could just threaten the guy who wore brown face with an embargo.
Oh, YT is Yukon. Interesting. I don't know what the team means.
Yeah, why is the...
Who knows?
Oh,
Hey,
weird.
I guarantee any of you Americans in chat, you're lying if you said you didn't just learn a little bit about
totally.
Canadian geography, because I did not know what all the provinces of Canada were. I honestly did.
So this Pete McLeod cat, I interviewed him, and he's super cool. You got to look up Pete McLeod, and you got to follow him because he's one of the Red Bull air racers, and his times are great. He's got like balls of steel. But I asked him in an interview, I said, so what got you into flying planes? And he basically said, I'm paraphrasing here, I'm probably doing a poor job, but he said, like, yeah, I live in a little town it's either Saskatchewan or else that province, it's MT, but it's like right in the middle of Canada. And he says, like, yeah, less than like 1% of a population is in our entire province. And like my little city of 2,000 people is 2 hours from the closest franchised restaurant, which is a McDonald's. And apparently it's faster to drive up the rivers once they've frozen, you know what I'm saying, in order to get there than it is to try and take the highways, which are iced over. So he got into bush planing it. You know what I'm saying? As a way to make it like into town.
I'm sure.
And then now he's a straight up like Red Bull air racer, and the guy's totally sweet. So, yeah, I just remember that he said something like, I'm butchering the statistics here.
Oh, we missed one too.
Yeah, it's that little one right above
NB.
Yeah, it's like by Newfoundland.
It's kind of
New Brunswick? I think it's New Brunswick,
maybe,
right?
yeah.
Wait, no, that's in New York. And then also, what's that NL? Do you see the NL above?
I did. I missed that one.
Yeah, exactly. So
it is funny. It is funny how someone brought up too the idea of Quebec. I do think Quebec would be a tough sell. They'd be a tough sell in joining this basically Anglo North American or English speaking North American.
Yeah, because they're French.
State. They'd be honestly, I think it'd be an easier sell on the predominantly Mexican-speaking Mexican population to join the English state than it would be for the predominantly French-speaking parts of Canada to join.
Okay, so you know how Louisiana was originally French, and part of the reason why it was sold was because as a colony it never really particularly grew. Louisiana didn't. Are there still native-born French speakers?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure
in Louisiana.
I'm sure.
Dude, their colony size maxed out at 2,000. I was studying it once. They never had a huge population.
There's actually, I was reading I think I was reading it or I was hearing it. Anyway, one of the reasons why some historians have theorized the British were so much more successful in their colonization than for example, let's look at the Portuguese and the Spanish and even some of the Dutch and stuff, was that the British basically had a better control on basically they were better at keeping their kids alive, and as a result they had bigger populations. So as a result, instead of having to go to these countries and just subject them, they could send hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of their citizens to inhabit them instead.
Hey, look,
and that's
Louisiana French is spoken in, this is interesting, apparently there's 100,000 Louisiana French speakers. Is that crazy Creole that's not real French?
Well, no, I mean, no, I believe to this day French is an official language of Louisiana. Like it's an official state language. And because of that, French is technically an official language in the United States. Because the state, I remember when I was taking French in high school, we learned that. But I believe that's still true, that because French is one of the official languages of Louisiana, technically, the United States has French as an official language.
Yeah,
and
it says Louisiana French should not be further confused with Louisiana Creole, a distinct French-based Creole language. Yeah, but it's just like all of the people that speak Yiddish and German in the Mennonite and the Amish colonies. Yeah. That's legit too. Did you know when they were forming our country, they actually put it to a vote about what the national language should be? They ended up choosing not a national language, but do you know what national language it would have been had the vote won?
French.
No.
Oh, what?
German.
Weird.
Isn't that weird?
That's very weird, actually. It's very surprising.
They voted on German.
Very surprising.
Yeah.
Wow, really? German?
Well, it's just like, Italian was the erudite language of Europe for 400 years.
I'm pretty sure that was French.
No, Italian. All the operas used to be sung in Italian. If it wasn't sung in Italian, then it was considered unartistic.
Sure. My only point is English wasn't a very popular language in Europe for a very long time. I agree.
That's your Anglo victim shaming.
No, it's like legitimately. I believe it wasn't until like the 1300s. I don't think that English kings spoke English in their court. I think that was around then.
Okay.
It was during the 100 Years' War. Around then,
Yeah.
that like up until then, English kings spoke French in their court, and all of their court spoke French to them because they. I don't know.
Yeah.
Weird stuff, right? I tell you what, though, it's one of the fun things. I feel like as society and as life and everything gets so crazy, we're gonna push history more and more in the back burner. But I implore you guys, it's stupid and it probably sounds dumb, but I swear to God, you can look at historical events that are so important that happened 150 years before other events and draw a straight line to them. Because really, there's the big important things that happen that shape the next decades, and then everything else that's always happening all the time that doesn't change.
Yeah.
And it's important to keep in mind why are we here? What was the Cold War? Who was it between? What were the sides? Why was there a Cold War? Why did it end?
Yeah.
All that stuff matters. Like I said, there's why I said Operation Barbarossa might be one of the most important things.
Well, we know why it ended, dog. We
history.
bankrupt them. That's why it ended.
My point is this, though. The great communist the Russian Empire fell when the Soviet Union collapsed. Think about that. A great global empire fell with the collapse of the Soviet Union. That happened, way back 30 years ago? It barely happened. That's recent. I mean, there's countries in Western and Eastern Europe that existed in 15 different states over the course of the last 100 years. And suddenly, same with, I don't know. I apologize. I'm going off the rails again, but stuff personally fascinates me, and I do wonder if we will. How long has it been since America's out of the state? 70 years, 80 years? Hasn't been that long.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Why can't we add another one, right? Why can't we add more territory to your point?
I was about to say, because Puerto Rico is not a state. The last state that was out of the Union, what was the last state? Because Guam's not a state. That's a protectorate. It's the Commonwealth of the U.S. Virgin Islands.
I thought it was like either Alaska or Hawaii were the last state we actually added.
I was about to say,
like a state.
No, but Alaska was Seward's Folly, and that was before, I swear, half the territories were completely organized. It had to have been Hawaii.
I think it was Hawaii in like the 40s.
Yeah, what was the
or
last
20s
state?
Maybe?
Yeah, because
once again, American geography.
They bought it from the Queen Kamehameha. By the way,
it was 59 for both Alaska and Hawaii. That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
Oh, Alaska and Hawaii came together?
I mean,
that was a package deal, the coldest and the warmest?
January and August of the same year, but the same year.
Wow. That must have been a fun time to be a congressman, to be able to say, I voted on the annexing of Hawaii and Alaska. That is great, dude.
And it was, how about this? 1959 would have been what? How many years ago? I can't do math.
Oh, 50.
But how about
60?
this? Before we added Alaska and Hawaii, in the year of 1912, we added New Mexico and Arizona as separate states.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, what if we...
It had been a long time.
And here's the other thing. Adding states doesn't even mean adding territory. We could just be redrawing borders.
Well, they want to add
states.
Washington, so they have 2 more senators.
Oh, yeah, and Puerto Rico.
You know what I'm saying? Well, Puerto Rico, you have to vote on it. See, that's the problem. Is the reason why we could get Washington to become a state is because they'd vote yes on it. And that's why they're all pushing it. But Puerto Rico has consistently voted against being a state. And so that's probably why it's not ever going to happen. But anyway, I'm going to address some questions here in the chat. Marcos Gonzalez says something interesting, that at the end of the day, I think it came down to 4 to 7 superpowers: Super Europe, Mega China, New Soviet Union, Super North America, Fresh India. I don't know what that means. Mega Middle East, and new United Kingdom. Well, Cody has a really interesting theory on that, and he thinks that there's like this total detente between all the superpowers of the world, and that the reason why there's always going to be this security between them is they recognize the need for each other in a way that is similar to a scale that has balancing elements on it, so on and so forth. So I do think when you study what actually makes a country and get those top 5 points, such as, shared language, shared history, topography, so on and so forth, and you actually compare that with the existing borders that we have, you'll notice that throughout time, there are some areas that have consistently been a country because, they do identify with that, but also gives you hope in liberalism because you see how many countries actually have maintained for long periods of time very diverse populations and have done it effectively. So there's sometimes I think, and I'm a little bit cynical, thinking, oh, you know what? A lot of this actually has to do with just tried and tested. This is the Turks versus Western Europe, and it shall not change, mark my words. But then there's, other times we're like, hey, look, we're actually doing it. We're actually having a diverse society and not at each other's throats and doing it. And that's actually why I think the U.S. Constitution is so important to maintain, because there's no better system that's been able to maintain as diverse a population from so many different past backgrounds, nationalities, ethnicities, and political thought processes than the United States of America. And we did it because we recognize that there's certain inalienable rights that come directly from God that are self-evident, instead of being conditional rights that come from society through social contract theory, as suggested by Karl Marx. That is why America is so awesome, and that is why America is so diverse. So hashtag America. Okay. And anyway, that was actually just my thoughts on that and my musings about what makes America so good. And then Mikey Kim brings up an interesting question saying China is bound to break up. And I say no, because China has no value for human life. And let me tell you, China would not be like Abraham Lincoln.
Hold on.
If there was a revolution, they would kill all the revolutionaries.
Hold on, though.
Okay. If there was a civil war, they would ice the people that rose up.
They do. But remember, China is also I don't live in China, but as far as I understand, China is a nationalist state, and they do have their kind of
leanings.
I don't know, but there is a bit of ethno-nationalism in China with the Han Chinese, I believe. That's the ethnic, like people who live in America look at other countries and go like, oh, what? They're all Chinese.
Oh, they're
right?
totally racist. Remember when coronavirus came out and there was those posters in like the McDonald's with the Chinese?
Yeah, it's like there's different ethnic groups that live in what we call China today, and there definitely seems to be favoritism. I mean, in one of the northern Chinese provinces, I forgot the name of it. They're currently it's a complete police state right now.
Okay. Because
there's a lot of the Uyghur Muslims are very very hot button issue right now, but also there's a lot of a lot of people from like the Kazakh or Kazakh descent. I'm butchering it, but people of different ethnic groups live out there, and it's basically a complete dystopian police state right now because there isn't as much Han Chinese in the area.
Okay.
That's a theory I've seen put forward. Dude, China's currently about to go to war with India. Get this. I was reading a tweet today where an Indian person was upset because there was not. I'm blanking on. Dude, do you know how many different ethnic groups live in India? I mean, like, you look at these countries that aren't like Western countries are familiar with, the different ethnic groups and the different, like one of the guys around there's like, why are Gurkhas and Sikhs fighting our battles for us and stuff? And it's like, we, being Americans or Westerners in general, we have no idea of these concepts. We just feel like, what, aren't you guys all Indians from India? It's like, no, it's not how it works.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's one of the reasons why it is really, it is really kind of interesting and bizarre to look at. It's why the global landscape's really weird right now, man. I mean, you look and think about it. Russia, for an empire that collapsed, they recovered fairly well.
You think so?
Dude, the Russian Empire collapsed, and there's still a Russia that exists today that encompasses many of the same capital cities. Like, yeah, pretty good. I mean, how many empires collapse and basically just lose? Actually, that happens a lot where an empire collapses and all they lose is the kind of the land they gained during their conquest. But still, I mean, you look and I don't know. It's just funny to me. The more I look back, the more I realize we are in a very large time of relative peace. World War II really was it. As Americans, we had Korea and we had Vietnam that we dealt with as well. Don't get me wrong. In Central Africa, there was basically a continental war that raged. Some people say to this day still. talk about what's going on in like parts of like the Congo and
Yeah.
Rwanda and stuff. I mean, there was basically a continental war that raged for years.
Yeah.
We've seen what's going on in the Middle East. Like, the world's not these. The world isn't, it's a small world. Everyone's
Yeah.
shaking, but still, I mean, the fact that we're not seeing these big, large movement of troops, we're not seeing ships invading nations. We're really not seeing that happen in a way
Yeah.
it used to happen kind of all the time.
Yeah.
So it does make you wonder. And I hate to say it, big turmoil in America definitely could be the catalyst for something like that. It really could be. Because again, I have to imagine America's enemies would definitely be looking to strike us while we're weak. It might not look like a ground invasion of North America, but it could look like just trying to undermine us in other ways.
Yeah.
Keep this in mind. It's a very small way, but think about this. The Chinese government, not the Chinese government, but we talked about this on a live stream. The Chinese government's like basically it's like a fascist economy where it's like the free market exists as long as you do the state's bidding, and then it does. The free market exists right up until you're no longer doing the state's bidding, and then it no longer exists anymore, and they're going to come in and take over. But Huawei, I believe the company, was trying to build the 5G cell network in England, and the North American Donald Trump, the American government, put a lot of pressure on England. You can't let the Chinese government essentially own your wireless phone infrastructure.
Yeah.
But if America were to fall into turmoil, I imagine we'd lose our presence on that stage, and that's where you would see China go to more countries and say, no, hey, maybe you should have us as your infrastructure. And then imagine that. Imagine if China, not even China, imagine if we did that. Imagine if the United States of America controlled the cell phone infrastructure for 85% of the world. How powerful we would be. Probably too powerful. And maybe we do. And hopefully we don't.
Yep.
But, I mean, you look at the little things that, if America were to recede off the world stage, that power vacuum will be filled. People aren't going to say, wow, good thing America stopped being... Like, I'm sure the Russians and the Chinese aren't going to start getting a little bit oppressive if America starts to recede from the world stage. And it's one thing to keep in mind, though, just getting back to the original topic of instability in the United States, instability in North America.
Yeah.
It would start to ripple across the globe. I mean, it just always does. When the world's predominant superpower when there was internal strife in Rome, I'm pretty sure the Gauls in Transalpine Gaul were like feeling what was going on in Rome a little bit, noticing that stuff was changing. I mean, like the stuff changes. Whoever the dominant power is, if they're having enough strife at home, people will start using that leeway. They start doing things they wouldn't otherwise, and it's. Hey, they start doing things like poison. I mean, it's not like Putin wasn't already poisoning his chief proponents, but his chief opponents. But still, did you know in Germany there was massive protests a few days ago? In Germany, German protesters stormed the Reichstag, right?
The Reichstag.
Yeah, that literally happened like a week ago.
Wow.
They were carrying around like QAnon flags. It was bizarre, man. It was a weird sight. I'm not German, so I have no idea what that was all about.
Bizarre or awesome, Cody? That's the question.
There was a flag in Kosovo. Let me show you guys this. There was flags in Germany. This was Germany. Let me show you this though. I want to show you guys this. Give me 1 second. I got to pull it up. So here's a thread of what was going on. This is from check it out. This is as far as I know, a Kosovo-based Twitter account. Shout out to Kosovo. But check this out. They said the F is happening in Germany. Look at this picture. So you see Donald Trump. It says Deutschland with the Q. So Germany and then the Q. And then let's go through some more. Look at this. Please, Mr. President, make Germany great again. This was my favorite. So that's Donald Trump. Friedensvertrag, I believe, is German for peace treaty. This is Donald Trump, clearly. That's Vladimir Putin. That's John F. Kennedy. And that's Martin Luther King Jr. That's Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela.
I don't recognize...
Wait, I think that's Friedrich Nietzsche,
the
honestly, philosopher.
Doesn't look like him, but it could be. I don't recognize these two. But like, what the hell was going on in
Does
Europe?
Does anybody
right
in the
now?
chat recognize those two? Yeah, who are the two on the left?
Please let me know if you guys recognize these two. But I have no idea who these people are. I can't even say. But how about just excluding them? What a group, man! Trump, Putin, JFK, Nelson Mandela, and Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, that's
I don't know what that is. And then another photo right here. You see Vladimir loves Donald. Give us free. I think that says with the Q logo, and then I believe that looks like that's the Russian flag. Is that like the Imperial Russian I don't know what that is.
Oh, no.
And you have the eagle over the American flag there.
Dude,
But yeah,
that
very
is
bizarre,
crazy.
right? I mean, very, very bizarre to see these sites in Germany.
Okay, so we're gonna be wrapping up here in a second. If you guys have any other super chats you want to get out of your system, any burning questions that must be asked, then please drop one on us right now. That surprises me, Cody. I have seen BLM flags, so I guess it makes sense you'd see these errant and
German QAnon
German
flags.
QAnon flags.
Like what?
If you're seeing, BLM flags across the world, I'm sure Q's got to get in there as well. But yeah, that surprised me. And the production quality on those flags is pretty well. I mean, somebody had like a material printer. I mean, that's just not some guy with a Sharpie making his flag something special. That was like legit, dude. So
I'm just trying to find video of the protesters rushing the Reichstag. You can see a lot of look, here's an article from The Guardian. Let me see if I can minimize this for you, just to show you guys what's going on in different parts of the world. German leaders hit out a protesters' attempt to storm the Reichstag, which is their kind of main government building, I believe, or maybe figuratively.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Do they have the video of it? I believe what these were, too. I think they mentioned it here. These protests that we saw in Germany, I think, were anti-lockdown protests, basically. Flags from the Reich and the far-right profanity in front of the German parliament are an unacceptable attack. Was there really flags from the Reich? I guess that looks kind of like when Jesus, man. You want to talk about... Here's the thing. People talk about the emotional baggage America has in its history. Dude, talk about Germany, okay? This stuff goes like life, not even a full lifetime. People are alive.
No, I know. It's
less
sad.
and less. People
Actually,
are alive
when you meet German youth, there's just a shame. There's just a shame, especially in the liberal ones. Like, they don't even want to just admit that they're from Germany. It's bad. It's bad.
I mean, it is. Although, the Germans are getting ready to invade. It's funny you say that, but where is a lot of the power of the EU being centered right now?
Well, in the only viable economy.
Not like literally in Berlin, but like you'll notice kind of in this more of the German sphere of influence seems to be where
because they're the only people paying their bills. That's why. Unless it's NATO bills. Yes. But, technically not NATO.
Very important. Very important. $2 super chat, Adam Duffy. Thank you very much, man. He said, regularly scheduled to drop a like super chat. And of course, always remember, if you disagree with anything we said, feel free to put a thumbs down.
And my melanated scope mirrors this suggestion, saying drop a like. I know you saw the last super chat. So thank you both. Adam Duffy, send us a link to your podcast. We want to hear what you sound like. Or is it a video podcast like us on YouTube? Looking forward to seeing that. And my melanated scope, thank you for reminding everybody to make sure you like this. Watch, I'm going to go down and like it right now. Click. I just did it by example. Anything else you want to say before we go, Cody? T-Dot says call and show when, too. I've got the number, dog.
I felt like there was something else I wanted to say. Give me 1 second. I'm going to filibuster for a second here. I do believe they're getting rid of filibustering as well, but...
No, they want to. I know, because Democrats want to destroy America. That was Captain America. That was the Captain America cop that got clubbed in the head.
There's not a whole lot else. I was just looking if there's any other... You know what? One more thing.
What is it?
Shout out to this dude right here. Barrington Martin II, I believe. He's currently running for Congress. I will put a link to his...
Act Blue. I refuse to donate to anybody that's got an Act Blue link.
Irrelevant, nothing to do with anything. I follow this guy on Twitter, and I think he's a really cool guy, and definitely I don't want to go out there and just say support anyone you want, but I've seen a lot of stuff from this guy, very cool individual. So I just want to take some time to shout him out.
All right. Awesome. Your shout outs are yours and yours alone. Anyway, thank you for hanging out with us, guys. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you in the next video.